Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sept, HurricaneTrack.com here, back in the office, back in Wilmington, North Carolina, where it's about 85 degrees in my house because the air conditioning decided to stop working yesterday. And we have a repair guy coming tomorrow, but that doesn't help me today. It's very, very hot in here, so maybe that'll force me to keep this rather brief. I wanted to talk to you today. It's unfortunate, but oh well. I want to talk to you today a couple of announcements for you. Big announcements, big things that are getting ready to happen. And but before I get into that, I just want to thank you for growing this into something that is going to allow these two announcements to even happen. All right, it's because of you guys, and we're making stuff happen that I never dreamed possible. I mean, the super tracking map, or whatever we end up calling it, we got to brand it, that Will Woodgate put together. He's responsible for a majority of that. He had input from some of our other supporters, from Howard and my good friend Jason, who's my childhood best friend. He works for a company that does statistical analysis that's called SAS Institute in Cary, North Carolina. That's where Jason works. And Will put this thing together, and he's one of our supporters. And man, oh man, is that super tracking map super. It's incredible. Just the other back-end help from Mike Cornelius, getting the YouTube composite with the on-screen display of multiple cameras. It's like our own control room. Really, really remarkable. I mean, we're talking like that. He hit it out of the park. And all of that combined, and with the funding that we have, for Laura, I did not have to worry about funding. I didn't have to worry about getting hotel rooms for every one of the crew members. And let me just talk about that real quick, how important that is. Over the years, anybody from my wife to people that I've met, we just talk about stuff, they always ask, well, why don't you guys just share a hotel room? It would save money. And the answer to that is because we're going into a hurricane situation, especially these big ones like Laura, that are deadly. And you've got to have every ounce of wit about you. And when you take 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, anybody, you know, if you got a family, you know how it is, you pile everybody in a hotel room, somebody's snoring, somebody's scratching, somebody's watching their iPad, their phone's going off, they get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom 42 times. We don't need that. And so to finally be able to not worry about, when I book hotels, oh, well, tonight's going to be $730 for the 4 of us. Didn't have to worry about it. And we were all able to get sleep, and we were all able to stay focused. Everybody was on point. Nobody got hurt. We didn't screw anything up. We didn't have any mishaps. We didn't argue with each other, because when you're tired, you get cranky, and that affects team morale. And it's just little things like that that you don't think about. You know, it's like, well, you provide an income, so I'm able to support my family, and that's huge. That's the number one thing that I've got to do. I've got to be able to support my family. But to be able to accomplish things out in the field, you have to have rest. And, you know, you got to be able to get gas wherever you want it. You know, if you see a gas station that's maybe shouldn't be charging $2.25 a gallon, and you're thinking, well, let me go down another few miles and find one that's $1.89 to save a little money because I don't have much of a budget, we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's really, really amazing. You know, we're not doing anything frivolous, but boy, oh boy, it was just that comfort zone that we didn't have to worry about the funding. You know, that this is costing too much. We might have to stay a couple extra days. How are we going to pay for it? And added to that, people that offer for us to stay in their houses. And sometimes we will be able to take advantage of that, especially when we're in a situation where we're stuck. But oftentimes having our own rooms at a hotel makes the biggest difference. I can focus. I got to do these updates, you know, until the wee hours of the morning. Well, or do I? Which brings me to my next announcement, or my first announcement. Bear with me, I'm very tired and trying to get back in. I'm kind of groggy. So that's the introduction part of it, a thank you and just kind of an idea, that hotel room story. That matters, it really does. All right, so the first announcement that'll kind of help that whole, well, I got to do updates into the wee hours of the morning. I am very happy to announce that we will be adding the services of one Jack Zillan, formerly of weather.us and weathermodels.com. He has since resigned, if you will, that post, and he will be working with us. This is his website, his personal site, forecasterjack.com. You know Jack from the Hurricane U series. He's been a guest. You know his tweets, his blogs, and he will be working with us, which is very, very, very exciting. Doing guest blogging. He's going to be a contributor. You know, you watch television and you see a national news outlet, and it'll say, you know, CNN contributor Fred Smith, and he's our, you know what that means. I don't have to explain it. You're smart people. Jack will be a contributor for us. He will also be contributing to the Hurricane Tracker app. That is not our app. That's part of the reason why I don't have an app, is because people confused Hurricane Tracker, which is the name of their app, and it's a pretty good app. It's been around a long time. Very well packed together, lots of good stuff. It does not have the live stuff that our app did. I'm getting off on a tangent here, but anyway, that's a great app, and he will be doing some contributions for them as well, which is really, really good to see somebody like Jack, who is the same age as my college-age son, Nicholas. That's my boy. Jack and Cole, we call Cole for short, Nicholas Cole, right? They're the same age, which is just mind-blowing. Cole's going to be like, why didn't you hire me? I'm like, well, because you're going into medicine. And Jack's going into meteorology. Jack is at Cornell, and he is going to do some great things. So what we need to do is we need to grow this Patreon big enough so that we can support Jack in the future when he graduates, and we can offer him a job. Seriously. And I'm going to talk about this more later. This is just the announcement part. But I'm very serious about growing something where we develop a dream team of forecasters and migrate into other high-impact weather forecasting, and then we go out in the field and cover it. We take what we've done with hurricanes, my skills in geography, climatology, and meteorology. I'm kind of a mishmash of all of that. A physical geographer, that's what I technically am. My degree is in geography, but I studied weather and climate and hurricanes, some math, but that was not my focus. Jack has the math, the physics, the differential equations, the dynamics, and there's others, you know, that I'm thinking of. My short list is starting to get even shorter because we have just signed Jack Zillan. So congratulations, all right, to all of us. He will be a huge benefit. It'll help me. I don't have to be as stressed. He is going to do blogging on a daily basis. He'll be able to pop in on Patreon and do blogs there, and it's just going to be fantastic. So starting today, Jack Zillan will be our guest contributor, and he will post a blog on Patreon in just a little while. I'm going to give him the green light, and we will be ready to go and use Jack's services from here forward. All right, so I really, really look forward to that. All right, the next announcement, and this one, as excited as I am about Jack, I don't know, I think at the risk of offending Jack, I think I'm more excited about this next one, and Jack would understand. We had, I don't know, something like 10 of these little guys. This is what all the fuss has been about. You know, the whole bring Cam 8 home. When we put these cameras out there, starting with Laura, an unprecedented effort by us, because of you, was underfoot to study not just the visual aspect. Yes, we all want to see what's going on. That's very, very popular. That is the lure that most people sign up for. I get that. They want to see for a variety of reasons. That's what gets them in the door. I want to see those cameras. Little did most of those people know, in the excitement of signing up, that in the background we are doing science. First of all, the cameras are science. It's called photogrammetry, where you use photographs and video to extract science or data. Forensic evidence people do it all the time with anything from building collapses, airline disasters, criminal investigations. Photogrammetry is a thing. And maybe one day we can get a photogrammetry expert on board. How cool would that be? But we already are. All of us. Anytime you're analyzing a satellite picture, a still shot from Brandon Clement's flyover looking down in Cameron, that is photogrammetry. It might be amateur photogrammetry, but it doesn't matter. We're using the photo data or moving pictures data, video, to solve problems. So little did you all know, especially those of you that signed up very quickly. You saw it, you knew you had to do it, you signed up. Little did you know that you were part of something that's much bigger than a subscription, a membership. You were contributing to the science. And in the background of the video, we were putting in every one of those boxes except one. The Hackberry box didn't have one of these in there. It's the only goof that we had, and I'll explain it in a second. There's actually a rationalization. All of our camera boxes had one of these inside. It is a Kestrel Drop 3 meteorological sensor. It measures air pressure, temperature, dew point, and humidity, I do believe. It's got a little tiny little sensor right there, that little white thing, if you can see it. And it logs this on a chip, and it'll run for many, many days in a row, depending on the sample rate, how fast it's logging data. Every box except Hackberry. Why didn't Hackberry have one? Well, I was getting the sensor ready. I have to use the Kestrel app and go into the sensor and type in, the sensor has an ID. It talks to my phone. I tell it, Hackberry, Louisiana, and I get it ready. I clear all the data off of it up into that very moment. There's a preparation period of a couple of minutes. During that couple of minutes, the camera was already running, and it's funny because it's actually on the archived Nest video, and I'm like, all right, it's running, and Brent and Mike got it, and you can hear me say, oh, hold on, I got to put a sensor in there, and I went and I got it, and I was getting it ready, and then this woman from the property over there, her name's Mimi Espinosa, she came over and was talking to us about everything. I was showing her the pressure sensor, all excited like a little kid, on Christmas Day, showing off his presents. And while I was doing all that, Brent and Mike had put the camera on the pole and fastened it, and it was getting ready to rain. I was like, I won't worry about it, because we had a weather station, the full-on R.M. Young weather station, 400 feet away on the bridge that goes over the Show Peak Bayou. So that was my rationalization for not putting a pressure sensor in the box in Hackberry once Brent and Mike had already gotten up there. They worked too fast. They were too fast. I was busy running my mouth, showing off our technology to Mimi, and but it gave me an idea, the whole thing, and that's called serendipity, where something happens that's positive, but it has a good outcome. That's generally, they say it's a serendipitous moment. I didn't remember that I didn't put a pressure sensor in the Hackberry box. We thought the box was missing because when Mike and I went back to the Hackberry location, there was no camera box on the pole. There was no weather station on the bridge. And we were very distraught, quite upsetting. It kind of put me in a bad mood. Come to find out a number of hours later from Mimi Espinosa, she had the camera box in her possession, that a neighbor had gotten it for safekeeping. No word about the weather station. That's a whole other issue. But the camera box was in safekeeping. It's good. It's found. And I thought, all right, awesome. In a few days, might be a week to 10 days, when things are not even back to normal, but better, I'll get her to FedEx my box to me, and I'll get that the pressure sensor out of it. So, but remember, there was no pressure sensor in there, but I didn't remember that at the time. So then I thought, wait a minute, because she texted me all of this. She sent me a picture from her iPhone. Mimi has an iPhone. You can tell because it's got the iMessage stuff, and Android is blue or green, iPhone is blue. If you have an iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. She had a smartphone. That's the bottom line. And it dawned on me, I was like, wait a minute. She can just download the Kestrel app, log into the Kestrel. There's no password. It's not secure. It's not encrypted. This sends out a Bluetooth signal. Her iPhone will pick that up. Her Kestrel app, if she downloads it, will read the data. There's a little tab on there that says stats that gives you a snapshot of your maximums, your averages, and your minimums. And all I need is that minimum pressure. We can worry about the file and the entire life of that, the pressure dropping and the pressure going back up. What Brent wants, we can worry about that later, but what was the minimum pressure? And so I told her all of this, and then the guy that works in my brain remembered, oh, you didn't put one in there. You didn't put a sensor in there. And I told her, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, forget it. I forgot to put a sensor in there and whatever. And then, and I know I'm going a long story here, but I want you to understand the process. Then, up at the casino, I don't even know how you pronounce it. It's near the Golden Nugget. The one that Jim Cantori was reporting from, the L'Auberge or whatever, L'Auberge, whatever, casino. I don't know French. We had a camera box there. And Cantori had asked me to put it on a tree and have it look back at the back of the casino because we thought about 10 feet of water was going to come back there, which didn't happen, thank goodness. The tree had fallen over. It was a piece of junk tree. That's a fake tree, I think. It actually snapped over. It broke in half. And the camera hung looking at the ground by the ratchet strap. And Charles Peak, who works for the Weather Channel, a friend of ours, went by and got the camera on his way out of town, Lake Charles, the day after landfall. And bear with me, this is important, all right? He went to Arkansas, where he lives, and I did the same thing. Charles, can you download the Kestrel app? Blah, 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 blah. Within 5 minutes, Charles sent me the stats from the pressure sensor that was inside the Lake Charles casino camera, or the Cantori camera, whatever you want to call it. And it read 945 millibars for the low pressure. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. The brightest light came on. We are going to revolutionize pressure data for hurricanes and other major storms forever. If Charles can do it, Mimi was going to do it. All that was needed is that I had put the darn sensor in the box. Mimi would have been the first. Why not let anybody do this? So here is my second giant announcement. As of right now, I want to work with you all, and I will make this video public later, to crowdfund as many of these as we possibly can. 30, 40, 50 of them. They're about $130 each, which is not bad, considering the RM Young pressure sensors that we use are $658 each, and they don't have Bluetooth. And I'm not trying to knock them, but they're much more cumbersome to deal with. They're slightly more accurate, but we're only talking about, maybe this one says 1,002.3 millibars. The RM Young might be 1,002.23 millibar. It's just, you can barely tell the difference. Kestrel makes a great product. I want to have as many of these as we can possibly get. And here's what I want to do with them. When we go into an area that's going to have a hurricane, especially a major hurricane, a Category 3 or higher, I want to have these ready to go in a Ziploc bag with a 5x7 card, like a postcard, that we will have printed up, that has a QR code, a little set of instructions, maybe a graphic on the front, and we bring back this idea that I had 16 years ago, our sort of code name, the Hurricane Landfall Project, version 2, the 2020 edition, 16 years later. We had to have a name for this idea of putting remote cams and the vehicle out there in 2004. It's actually in some of my documentaries. If you go and watch, I think, Tracking the Hurricanes 2018, I believe the whole beginning of it talks about that, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but that's a project that started 16 years ago, and we kind of got away from it and just called it the Remote Cam Project, and it was more about the cameras. But with this revelation and the relative inexpensive nature to these instruments, it's time to put this science first. And since video is science, it's always been there, but really, really promote it. That we embark on, when the next hurricane makes landfall, without a doubt, the single greatest pressure study, well, there'll be temperature, humidity, dew point too, pressure study of that hurricane. And I know you're asking yourselves, what about wind? We all want to see the wind. Wind is extremely difficult and expensive to measure. We're not giving up, but this is where we should put our effort, is the pressure. And furthermore, Dr. Phil Klotzbach from Colorado State University did a paper recently. I'll find it and I'll put a link to it in the Patreon post, and when this goes on YouTube. He co-authored a paper suggesting that pressure is a better measurement in the long term for the intensity of hurricanes than wind. And you have to read the paper to understand that. So tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m., I will be having a conversation with Dr. Klotzbach, and we're going to discuss the world's greatest research effort to study and map the pressure field of a major hurricane at landfall. You need to get excited. You need to jump up out of your chair and say, I am a part of this, because you're helping to fund it. You might even live in the area, I hate to say it, where the major hurricane is coming. You might know people in the area. I literally want to walk up, find homeowners, either supporters of ours or not. Maybe they're not yet. Maybe they never heard of us. We walk up, hey, sir, how you doing? Introduce myself, tell them what we're doing. Have this little turnkey bag with the Kestrel in it, a postcard that explains everything, a QR code. They scan it. It tells them exactly what to do, where to put it. While I'm standing there, I'll go into the Kestrel app, and it'll only take 2 or 3 minutes, and tap into the app, talking to this instrument, Bob Smith, Hackberry, Louisiana, whatever, and take a picture at his property. That geotags his location in my phone. You understand that? Now we have latitude, longitude of exactly where this was. We label it Bob Smith's house, Hackberry, Louisiana, whatever. I clear the memory up to that, because these are always running. Once you put the batteries in, they just run until they run out. Clear the memory up to that point so it's fresh. Hand it to Bob. Bob goes and puts it in his house somewhere. Bob evacuates. Bob comes back a week later, whatever the case may be. At some point, we encourage Bob, can you grab that Kestrel, log in from your smartphone, download the CSV file. It's real easy. Step-by-step instructions. Send us that file when you get a chance. I know that fixing your house is the priority, but whenever you get a chance, talk to this little guy through your phone, give us the data, and we start to crowdsource and map out the greatest pressure study, more than any university, more than any other private group. It will revolutionize hurricane data as we know it. We give it all away for free to universities, to the government, to people like Dr. Klotzbach. We make it available just like when people sequence the viruses like coronavirus and they put it out there, the genome for it. I understand a little bit about it. They don't hold on to it to try to make a profit. You put it out there to try to save humanity and let other people model it and understand it so that they can figure out therapeutics, etc. And that's what I want to do with this. We will never sell our data to anyone. And this is going to revolutionize things. All right? So what are we going to do? These are $130 each. We could get in touch with Kestrel and ask them for a whole box of them, sure. But I like the idea that it's crowdfunded rather than donated by Kestrel. It's a better story. When we have articles written about it, it's neat to say that the company behind them, I think it's Nielsen Kellerman or something. There's a company that owns Kestrel. Kestrel's the brand. Yeah, sure, it'd be great if they send us a box of 100 of them. But the more interesting story is we put 52 of these out, and every one of them was crowdfunded and donated by individuals. Maybe an individual donates 10 of them. Sure. It's only $1,300. It's not that much money in the grand scheme of things. And some people are in the position to do that. That is the power of crowdfunding. Some people are not in the position, and that is fine. Do not feel obligated, but I do want you to feel motivated that if you have a way, I will put a link to these. In fact, I'm going to put an entire Amazon wish list up so that we rebuild our equipment, we do things, and we get ready for the next major hurricane. But these are going to go in every box. We're still going to do that, and we're going to hand them out to people all over the area. We're going to make a concerted effort, and I want as many of these as we can possibly get, with the goal of literally having 50 of them by the time we have the next hurricane landfall. 50 is not that many when you think about a geographic area. 100 will be better, and oh my goodness, can you imagine what we're going to be able to do? Other things like collecting wind data, we will work on that, but that is extremely difficult because you have to site the anemometer in a proper location or your wind data is invalid. It must be out in the open. It has to be at a certain elevation. The anemometers that I would like to use are $1,500 each. You have to secure them. It's a lot harder than you think. I'm not giving up. We're going to try to replace the one that has been stolen. It's a $1,500 piece of equipment. It's a real bummer that somebody took it. Or maybe it fell in the bayou. Maybe, I don't know, the wind was able to, what's called harmonics, kind of rattle that thing enough. I doubt it. I mean, that thing's bolted on, but I'm on a tangent again. We're going to continue to work on wind data, absolutely. But this is easy, and this is extremely important, mapping the pressure field of hurricanes at landfall. And then we can do it for things like those big bomb cyclones that come into the Pacific Northwest. Send a bunch of these out to friends that we have in the Pac Northwest. Take these up when we have a huge nor'easter. Eventually send some to the Philippines. Send some over to the UK when you get these storms that come across the Atlantic. I'm serious. Global weather data from the pressure perspective. And it has all the other data too. The temperature data is in there. The humidity. Wow. So there you go. I'm going to shut up and post this. So 2 huge things built on the success of Hurricane Laura putting us out there and exposing us to all of you all that are watching this. I encourage you, if you're able, to stay a sustaining supporter. The $10 level seems to be the sweet spot. It's $120 a year. For most people, even in this economy, that's not bad at all for what we're doing. And if you look at it from the perspective of it's a cooperative, it's a group effort, we're crowdsourcing and crowdfunding something that's truly revolutionary, then it's a little bit different than I'm paying $10 a month to watch, YouTube videos of whatever, a subscription. It's not that. And if anybody's in the position to increase your patronage, you can do that as well. You can name your own, even if it's just temporary for a couple of months. You can boost it, and you can take it down. Maybe you need to take it down to $1 or $5. I understand that too. But the long-term goal is to continue to grow that $10 level. And you can mark my words, as they say, read my lips. I know that went south for that president because he never... You remember, he did raise taxes, or no new taxes, if you're old enough to remember what I'm talking about. That's why we don't do politics. But I promise you, I will never change the $10 level. And let's just make it $25. This is not about profit. This is about growing something that's innovative and revolutionary and that's making a difference. So get as many people as you know. Let's continue to grow this. We need to get that patronage up to $15,000 to $20,000 a month so that we can have a staff and form a new company. And I know I'm getting slightly ahead. I'm going to talk about that later, but you're getting an idea of my bigger goal. I'm going to move the goal post from my goal this year was 6,500. I'm going to change it to 12,000 by the end of the season. And we'll see what happens. And with that money, we're going to be able to bring in people, and we're going to change online weather like the Weather Channel did in 1982, I think it was. We're going to do it again on the internet. Us. Crowdsourced, crowdfunded, ad-free weather, science, education. It's going to be incredible. And I'm glad you're here at the very beginning of it, even though it's 15 years old. Isn't that weird? But this is the crowdfunding version of it. We are in the age that you can make the difference. So, welcome aboard. Thank you. I'm going to post this now. You got questions, you got offers of help. Anything, email me, private message me on Patreon. My email is hermark, HURRMARK, hermark, HURRMARK, @gmail.com. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're going to make history here. We're already doing it. I'll see you on the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. A big welcome to Jack Zillan. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you later.